Serious redditors who have found a dead body. What happened and what did you do? I was first on the scene at a car wreck where a truck had flipped and the driver and passenger had been ejected. The driver was effed up, but that was still better than the passenger who was most certainly dead. The wreck was already blocking the road and the body didn't make it any worse, so I left it alone after checking that he was dead, which was a pretty quick check, what with the shredded meat with bones sticking out and all. I thought about putting a blanket over him or something, but it seemed a little pointless. The driver could hardly move or talk, and I tried to do what I could to make him comfortable on a hot piece of asphalt until the police/ambulance arrived, which took forever because this was way out in the Arizona desert. He wanted to hold my hand and kept sort of rambling about his trip and about the other person, so I half lied to him and just said his friend couldn't talk to him right now. A bunch of times I glanced over at the body because of how gory it was. I had seen bodies in funerals, not anything like this. I wasn't fascinated or into it or anything, just kind of shocked in a visceral way. The way people will instinctively rub a neck, even when they know better. Anyway, I left once the responders arrived, stopped to wash my hands at the first rest stop I came to, and told myself I would never drive again without everyone being buckled up. I was 17. We'd had a party at my house and we were all pretty drunk. Toward the end of the night, my friend, whose dad had died the year before, said he had lost the watch his dad had given him, so we turned the house upside down looking for it. He had been in the pool earlier, so we took the cover off. The water was murky from lots of people being in it all day and we couldn't see the bottom. My friend Michael got in to look for the watch. He swam down in one corner and came back up empty-handed. He went down in another corner and came up pretty quick and panicked, shouting back, quote, "There's someone down here." We pulled out my cousin. I ran for the phone. Mike, from inside the pool, somehow got out and beat me to the phone. Adrenaline, I suppose, so I went outside and we started CPR. He was still warm, so we tried our best. I felt his ribs break at one point. Ambulance crew got there, took over and took him away. Then the police arrived. None of us were allowed to leave. We had to strip and give our clothes to the police. An officer stayed with us till around 10 AM, watching TV with us. Nobody was allowed to come in or leave the house till they had ruled out any wrongdoing. I was a lifeguard at the time. I had only been on the job for about 5 months, but made it to guard supervisor just from the amount of saves I've had to do, so I was pretty much the one to call over if shit hit the fan. I'm on stand while a new guard was getting water. I witnessed a guy slip and hit his head pretty hard. I blow my whistle to signal a save and I hustle over there. The guy was still breathing, just unconscious, so the only thing to worry about was the trauma to the head. I didn't see any sort of bleeding or indent on the back of head, so more than likely he had a concussion. I tried to wake him by calling his name. His family was there by the time I finished examining him, and no response, not even a twitch. So we called paramedics to be safe. Note it takes them 10 minutes to get to the park. The guy is still unconscious and breathing, but I get a weird feeling that shit's about to hit the fan. So I have everyone except the family go about their business. I get a shiver going down my spine, so I turn around. The guy had stopped breathing, so I begin CPR. But I'm still not getting a pulse. We had to pull out the defibrillator while still doing chest compressions. We still had no pulse after 5 minutes of doing all of this. As lifeguards we are unable to pronounce people dead, so we had to continue another 5 till the paramedics got there. They pronounced him dead on scene. Work in the property management industry, and in my younger days, encountered 4 dead bodies, 3 suicides and 1 odd. The suicides, 2 gunshots to the head and 1 hanging, were surreal. My mind still just tunes out the details because of what I saw. At the time, I just backed out of the room, called 911, answered their questions and left. The odd still haunts me. The young lady had an appointment at the office that she didn't show up to. The manager asked me to go do a wellness check because she was busy but was concerned. Knocked, no answer. Opened the door and saw her sitting on the couch, eyes open, watching TV. I tried to get her attention, no luck. I finally got close enough to realize she was no longer with us, said some words, and got out quickly. Called 911. answered their questions, left and still hate that day. It was the open eyes and just sitting there that gets me. If you want some stories, that is the industry to be in. Walked in on a lot of people doing stuff with other people, weird drama between residents, weird drama with management, caught one manager renting her model unit out on an hourly basis. Never a dull moment. This reminds me of a story that happened to my uncle and dad. My uncle rented out his house while he was deployed to a normal looking married couple. All was going well when suddenly they stopped paying rent. Some 3 months later, my uncle came back and asked my dad to go with him to the house since the tenants weren't answering the phone. This was before mobile phones and still not paying. So they went and rang the doorbell and no answer. They walked around the house to look into the windows because it's kinda illegal for a landlord to let himself in a rented property. Well, they peered in and saw no furniture and my uncle had rented out the house furnished. This is when they decided to go in and there was the most god awful stench inside. They found the husband upstairs on the only remaining bed. He had been dead for a couple of months from an odd in the middle of the summer in a hot country. My dad described it as the guy melted onto the bed and reeking. It was so bad that some of the police even puked on arrival. Turns out the couple were junkies and they had been selling off the furniture. The wife left the guy at some point and he OD'd and no one looked for him, which was pretty sad. Took a while for the house to stop having that dead melt stench in it. My dad was traveling with a co-worker 25 years ago or so. They were in a rural area of the Midwest and my dad pulled over to use the bathroom in a field. Weird choice but okay. He walked a ways off the road in what was likely a wheat field and found a body of a teenager with a gunshot wound. They flagged someone down so they could call police with a bag phone, naturally, and they arrived soon after. Both were taken in for questioning and my dad's coworker had taken a photo, WTF, which the photo lab withheld after developing. My dad was home late that day and we didn't know why, because again, no cell phone, and it was such a bizarre story. It was ruled a suicide and really haunted my dad. Riding a dirt bike through the woods to my then GF's house. She lived in a pretty high crime area. Coming up the trail I see what looks like a few black garbage bags blocking the trail. As I got closer I realized it was a dude in a black shirt slumped over. I took off because my first thought was he was murdered and whoever killed him was coming back and I'd be next. Alone in the woods with a dead body. I was 12 or 13 years old. I got out of the woods immediately and rode down the street to her house. Jumped off the bike and started punching and kicking her at door while ringing the bell. She opens up and I tell her to call the cops, but her parents don't believe me so her dad goes to where it is and comes back and only says yup dead body alright. I show the cop where it is and they eventually tell us the dude had a suicide note and odd on heroin. He was 44 living with his mom, but wouldn't say a thing more. I got a cool police escort down the highway on my dirt bike, since the road next to where he was they closed off. There was a side street next to the woods and a highway next to the side street. I told everybody I knew I found a dead body for years. My neighbor/friend ended up finding a dead body a few miles away 2 years later. Playing in the woods. 3 years before I found the dead body a girl was abducted in 1999 walking home from work behind a cart and they found her body in the woods. I never realized my childhood was a literal reenactment of Stand By Me. Edit. Oh and there was an unsolved murder when they found another body in the woods in 1996. Then just a few years ago there a mob hit on a limo company. My town's fucked up. Welcome to NJ. Digging a foxhole on a field exercise. I hit bones about 2 feet below surface level. Realized I had a couple of pieces in my discard pile as well. Stopped, put them in a bag. Wrote grid coordinates on the bag and what bones I thought they were. I had just ended a course that was a bioanthropology lab. Sent them up the chain. Didn't hear anything more until 10 days later, about an hour before leaving the post, when they said the state police wanted to talk. It had been 10 days. I was confident from the dirt those had been there a very long time and I didn't have a convenient backup ride, so I passed and went home. Never heard any more about it. I myself didn't find a dead body, but my friend had such a situation. He went to make a cool photo in an abandoned hospital. He walked through the corridor to the end and heard an unacceptable smell. Then he went into one of the rooms where the stench was coming and saw the corpse of the girl who was hanging there. He called the police and thanks to it found a girl who disappeared for 2 weeks. I was 14 to 15 years old at the time and was coming home from school. Went right to my room to take off my clothes as I wanted to take a shower as it was very hot outside. When I opened the door to the bathroom, I found my grandma dead/naked next to the bathtub. She wanted to take a cold shower and her heart gave out, I guess. She was in her late 70s. I immediately phoned my parents and left the building as fast as I could. When my parents and the cops arrived, they found me crying. I was 7 or 8 and it was very early in the morning and winter. I was living in Mongolia at that time, so the nights in winter got -40 deg easily, and the man I found was a dead drunk who was frozen solid. Before that I sometimes saw a truck loading up drunks in the winter, but it was too early in the morning for it to make its round, and it was the first time I saw one from this close. Thanks guys for watching. What subreddit should I do next?